What's going on? It's Dapper Don, and I'm excited to welcome you all back. Now, it's been quiet around here the last, I guess, week or so, just because, I was on spring break and I kind of wanted to enjoy it. And I hope in that time that you guys were able to, check out some of the other episodes and kind of leave your thoughts on that. But for now, this week, we're talking about those predator catchers on YouTube. Apparently now, Gideon is in trouble. Apparently, there's some stuff going on. I have to look more into that, but that kind of got me thinking about the practice in general, in terms of like its benefits, its drawbacks, and if it should even keep going. So, we're going to talk about, you know, predator catchers. We're going to talk about a couple situations. We're going to talk about why this stuff doesn't exactly work. Then I'm going to close with my final thoughts, and then we're going to conclude. I'll do the plugs and all that stuff. All right? So let's jump in. So, where did this whole predator catching thing come from in the first place? Well, for those of you who don't know, uh, which should be like maybe three of you, there was a show a while ago called To Catch a Predator. That show is a sort of sting operation where they work with some kind of law enforcement agency or some kind of agency to pretend to be a vulnerable little girl and go on different sites hunting for predators. The predators will engage sexually with these fake little girls, show up to the sting house, have a seat with the host, Chris Hansen. Chris Hansen grills them, tries to get into their head. Then after that, they are invited to leave, and then they get arrested. And so that show ran for however long it ran, which I think was about 20 years, I think. And then one of the predators committed suicide, and the show got canceled. Chris Hansen has since kind of brought that format back in another show he's doing on True Blue called Takedown or whatever. But essentially, that's kind of the origin of that. But after the show was canceled, around the early 2000s, there was like a plethora of aspiring predator hunters that arose. People who were inspired by that shtick and decided to continue it onto their channels. And, it did seem to spring from a genuine desire to, protect the youth. That did seem to be kind of the origin of that. But it's kind of become I don't know. It's just kind of grown into something that's not very good, and I'll kind of illustrate what I'm talking about here, if you don't mind. I'm going to pull up an article related to this. So give me just 1 second. So this is an article by The New Yorker. Letter from the Southwest: the disturbing rise of amateur predator hunting stings. How the search for men who prey on underage victims became a YouTube craze. This is by Rachel Monroe, posted on November 2nd, 2022. And like I said, you're going to notice that this has kind of grown into a problem. And again, we'll get into why more later, but let's kind of read this article and see what's going on. So, as the article starts, a couple of years ago, when Cam, her husband, and her brother-in-law would sit around watching YouTube, a certain kind of video kept popping up. Videos which were made by groups like Dads Against Predators, the Predator Catchers Alliance, or the Alabama Predator Poachers tend to follow a similar template, opening with screenshots of flirty messages exchanged between an adult man and someone purporting to be a teenage girl or boy, set to an ominous soundtrack, just like the original To Catch a Predator show. 1 second. After some brief hesitation, do you mind my age? Your parents won't know? The adult's messages turn more explicit. The pair arranges to meet up. After school, the quote-unquote teenager might say, I can get my mom to drop me off. Then the scene shifts to the fluorescent lit aisles of a Target or to the parking lot outside a Dollar General. If you guys know anything about the YouTuber Skeet Hansen, this is kind of his shtick. That's kind of an example of that shtick in the modern times. Like, that's still going on now. The camera zeroes in on a man standing by himself, furtively checking his phone, his posture betraying anxious anticipation. The predator catchers approach, phones up, cameras already recording. Did you come here to meet a kid? They say loudly. The man's face betrays what is about to happen. He denies everything, or prays to God, or buries his face in his hands, or starts yelling. The predator catchers pepper him with questions and accusations. Why are you chatting with kids online? You're a pervert. You're nasty. They announce that they're going to call the police, or that they've already called the police. Eventually, the man walks or runs away as his name and license plate number flash on the screen. The thought of adult men attempting to meet up with children got Cam's blood boiling. And here were regular people, not cops or television journalists, actually doing something about it. Her husband and her brother in law were inspired. They were like, what if we do something like this locally? Cam, who lives in Odessa, Texas, told me. Cam has to be referred to by a pseudonym because she fears retaliation. And I'm like, okay, sure, I'll follow. Predator hunting videos take an enduring social media trend, performing stunts for clout, and add a dash of vigilante justice and participatory true crime. So essentially, those prank videos on YouTube where they go out into public and make dumbasses of themselves, this is an evolution of that format, except it's Batman going out and making an ass of himself. So this is where we're starting to see the problem. Like, it's starting to become it's starting to become a bunch of clout goblins thinking that they can make an easy buck by taking advantage of a pervasive issue in our society: adults who want to meet up with underage children. In the past few years, as the article continues, they have become a minor YouTube phenomenon, one of the platform's proliferating subgenres that can feel ubiquitous in some parts of the online universe, yet invisible in others. And the thing is like, this is kind of the modern reality TV for people who are on YouTube all the time, right? Like, I even find myself getting lost in a rabbit hole with these videos because there's so many people doing it. They're everywhere, and they're in every community because predators are everywhere and in every community. And while, again, a lot of people do great work, there's still that element of like, you're clearly doing this for clout and not to actually like save children, at least not completely. And it is where that bad intent of just wanting clout comes in that we have a problem. Sure, anytime you do a show or a format or any publicized thing, you want attention on it. But the clout I'm talking about is the money, the fame, and none of the impact. None of the positive impact. They don't care. And that's where it becomes a problem. But anyways, the article continues. They typically follow the formula made famous by the TV segment To Catch a Predator in the early 2000s, but with a more excuse me, brain died, but with a more chaotic DIY energy. Do it yourself. Earlier this year, a sting operation spiraled into a fistfight in a North Carolina Target, ending with a predator catcher shot in the leg. Yeah, vigilante justice, Batman shit. And I'm already going to get off my opinion on this now. Vigilante justice never works. There's too much emotion tied into it, and there's too many other motives tied into it for it to work. And then you end up creating a situation where the person taking advantage of children gets off scot-free because of how you handled the situation. That is why you allow law enforcement to take a gander at it and do what they do. The system is broken. I will agree that the system is fucked up and broken. But it's better than fucking beating up predators in the street and then getting yourself arrested and then creating a situation where they get off scot-free because they look innocent. But anyways, moving on, back to the article. The most popular examples have hundreds of thousands of views and have inspired people to bring the trend to their own town. In 2019, NBC identified about 30 predator catcher online groups scattered across the country. Recently, the Washington Post found more than 160, which have been responsible for nearly 1,000 stings this year. Cam was 8 years old in 2004 when To Catch a Predator began airing on Dateline on NBC. The segment's host, Chris Hansen, had heard about Perverted Justice, a watchdog group whose members posed as teenagers in chat rooms. As I kind of glossed over before, they're those agencies that, again, pretend to be teenage girls in chat rooms, and then the modern format of this in his show Takedown, they're on apps like Grindr and Tinder and things like that. But as the article continues, NBC posed as teenage. NBC producers gave the group's operations a primetime makeover, renting a house and rigging it with cameras and hiring young-looking actors to pose as decoys. They also paid Perverted Justice more than $100,000 per instance. When a man arranged a meeting with a supposed teen at a sting house, he would instead be confronted by Hansen and by a squad of local cops ready to charge him with online solicitation of a minor, a crime punishable by between 5 and 10 years in prison. And Chris Hansen became sort of a national hero for stuff like that because he was actually getting these guys off the streets and actually taking action to make sure that these guys weren't able to prey on anyone else and to get immediate charges. Now, not all of those people went to jail. Not all of those people suffered consequences. Not all those people suffered consequences to the full extent of the law. But at the end of the day, they brought law enforcement attention to this issue. They brought law enforcement attention to this issue, and they didn't try to ambush them on the street, beat them up, or do some amateur thing. This was an actual news program that was working with the police. And even in the new show, they work with the police. As the article continues, although there were only 20 episodes of the series in 3 years, it's this touchstone that I grew up with and that millions of people grew up with. Paul Renfro, a professor of history at Florida State University and the author of Stranger Danger, Family Values, Childhood in the American Carceral State, said, "It shaped how people think about sexual violence in ways that we haven't fully grappled with. The show focused on the threat from strangers on the internet, even though most victims of child sexual abuse are harmed by someone known to them. On the show, it's not the family, it's not priests or rabbis or other authority figures who pose a threat to children. It's this devious stranger," Renfro said. The show's influence helped spur the passage of the Adam Walsh Act in 2006, which created publicly searchable databases of people convicted of certain sex crimes. There's little evidence that sex offender registries have been effective at reducing sexual offenses. To Catch a Predator faced criticism, most notably that it flirted with entrapment and blurred the lines between entertainment and law enforcement. And the reason it flirted with entrapment is because of the fact that entrapment basically means creating a situation by which somebody self-incriminates. And we have protections in the Constitution against self-incrimination. We do. And so any situation where you create self-incrimination, i.e., joining a chat room as an underage girl and soliciting to predators, you're kind of flirting with that notion of like, okay, he wasn't talking to an actual underage girl, and on top of that, he wouldn't have even solicited if that girl hadn't messaged him or engaged with him at all. So this is entrapment. And it kind of blurred the lines because the adults still engaged first and they still got sexual first. But what these new ones do is they'll go out of their way to message first, and on top of that, they don't have a consistent law enforcement presence. A lot of them will just let the guys go. But we're going to get back to the article, and you're kind of going to see some of that stuff. But the show's justification, that it was going after men who were preying on kids, tended to overwhelm the critique. Then, in 2007, a sting against Bill Conrad, a man from Terrell, Texas, went horribly wrong. For a few weeks, Conrad exchanged explicit messages with a Perverted Justice member posing as a 13-year-old boy. But when the time came to meet up, Conrad stopped responding. Police decided to arrest him at his home instead, and the production followed. When a SWAT team burst into his house, trailed by a camera crew, Conrad shot himself. NBC later settled a lawsuit with Conrad's family, which alleged that producers had steamrolled police into the rush arrests. So that's the supposed predator that offed himself. The program was canceled, but vigilante operations persisted in less popular television shows like To Catch a Con Man and in the occasional YouTube video. Recently, as conspiracies about groomers and child sex trafficking rings have circulated widely online, amateur predator hunting has come back into style. Odessa is a city in the petroleum-rich Permian Basin, where oil field jobs draw large numbers of transient workers. Crime rates are well above state averages, and services for victims are woefully inadequate. Cam knew that some of the more established YouTube channels warned viewers not to attempt their own sting operations, but her husband and her brother in law weren't dissuaded. They settled on a name, the Permian Basin Predator Patrol, and began creating fake profiles on dating sites. Cam didn't want to use a real child's photograph, so she uploaded a de-aged picture of herself or a gender-swapped image of her brother-in-law. He looks very young, she said, like a 15-year-old. To join the site, she said her decoy's age is 18, but when men chatted with her, she told them she was 15 or 16. Some immediately blocked her or stopped chatting, but others were unfazed. Last April, the Permian Basin Predator Patrol arranged its first sting at a Walmart in Odessa. We were incredibly nervous, not knowing how this person was going to respond, not knowing if they were going to have a firearm, because of course, we were in Texas, Cam said. The video of the brief confrontation was not particularly compelling. At moments, the audio was so muffled that it was difficult to hear what people were saying. But a week after uploading it, Cam woke up to dozens of notifications on her phone. So yeah, they just popped up out of nowhere and did a sting. These people just popped up out of nowhere and did a sting. No experience, no law enforcement backing, nothing. They just thought that they were just going to attract some random predator and confront him on YouTube. And then in Texas, where you don't know if you're going to get shot or not because firearms are highly encouraged over there, come on. Come on. Come on. We have to be smarter than this. This is why the human race is in the danger that it's in. Anyways, back to the article. The video of the brief confrontation was not particularly compelling. Oh, I already read this part. But a week after uploading it, Cam woke up to dozens of notifications on her phone. The internet had discovered the Permian Basin Predator Patrol. The vast majority of the comments were positive. People called them vigilantes, but they meant it as a compliment. Cam said, "They told us they're glad that we're doing the research, that it's about time somebody did this. They're giving us names like, hey, this guy might be a predator, look into him." On To Catch a Predator, Hansen and Perverted Justice seemed to work in concert with the police. The members of the Permian Basin Predator Patrol initially hoped that they'd be able to turn their investigations over to the authorities, who could use the information to make arrests. But soon after the channel started drawing attention, they were called to a meeting at the Odessa Police Department. According to Cam, officers made it clear that they disapproved of their activities. "We were told we can't be involved with them and that we can't send them anything directly," she said. "One, we're endangering ourselves, and two, we're giving them more work." That's what it seemed like they were saying. "We are very mindful of not trying to entrap a suspect," Lieutenant Brad Klein, who works in the Odessa Police Department's Crimes Against Persons unit, said. "Taking a predator into custody can be very dangerous as well." Permian Basin Predator Patrol continued to make videos. If she couldn't contribute to an arrest, Cam thought, at least she could get the word out to the public. She became an expert at figuring out the identities of the men she was chatting with, even when they used fake names. "Being females, it's like we're FBI agents in our own minds," she said. Sometimes she'd find a man's family on Facebook and send his mother screenshots of the obscene messages he'd sent, or call his employer. "I believe 3 of them have been let go from their jobs," she said. A sting by the predator catchers in Indianapolis led to a man's conviction for child solicitation. The prosecutor told the Washington Post that he expected to see more vigilante investigations. "There are individuals out there that may look on this and say, hey, if it's good for child predators, why is it not good for thieves or, drugs or something of that nature?" So, I mean, there's advantages, These guys do deserve punishment of any kind. I'm not sitting here saying they don't deserve to be punished to the fullest extent of the law. I'm not even sitting here saying that they don't deserve to have their faces bashed in or to be thrown in a wood chipper. But what I'm saying is that the law, simply just will not accommodate this. And oftentimes it leads to these guys getting away with bloody murder. But back to the article. Although YouTube's predator hunters tend to portray themselves as the unequivocal good guys, Cam is an exception, most are men, their track record is more mixed. At least one man, Kyle Swanson, has faced felony charges of obstructing justice and unlawful restraint stemming from an incident in which he lured a man to his car, threatened to hit him and prevented him from leaving. Again, creating a situation where the person soliciting minors online looks like the victim. Swanson ended up taking a plea deal and agreed to shut down his Predator Hunter Facebook group to avoid prosecution. The Ohio based group Dads Against Predators has reportedly been banned from local grocery stores for causing disturbances. In 2018, a 20-year-old in Connecticut hanged himself after a confrontation with a predator hunter group. One video by the Permian Basin Predator Patrol ends with a man weeping, then running into traffic. Cam said that she asked police to perform a welfare check on him, but she's not sure if it occurred. Yeah, this is basically regular citizens who don't know shit getting involved with shit that law enforcement often struggles with. So the person that has a degree in this shit and studies this shit and does this shit for a living, you think you, as the common Joe, know more than them. Wonderful. But that's kind of a summary of the issue we're dealing with here. And you can kind of get an idea of why this stuff is just not great. It's not safe. It's doing too much. But now we're going to get into a couple specific situations here to kind of and kind of outline and give our reactions to some of that as well. The first up is the EDP situation. EDP 445, as some of you may know. We're going to talk about that situation. We're going to talk about, kind of what was going on there. This is an article by Business Insider, April 23rd, 2021. A YouTuber with 2 million subscribers was accused of messaging a fake 13-year-old in a vigilante sting operation. Bryant Moreland, a YouTuber known as EDP445, was seemingly caught trying to meet a 13-year-old in an online vigilante sting operation. Another YouTuber known for filming these stings released the footage, which appeared to show Moreland exchanging inappropriate texts with a decoy who was pretending to be 13 years old. Now Moreland has deleted all of his videos from the platform. Oh, Jesus Christ. Are they going to make me... They're going to make me subscribe. Okay, hold on. That did not happen before, so give me 1 second. Yeah, I'm about to find me a different article. See, this is like there's still newspapers that you can get for free. There's still newspapers that you can get for free. Why? All right, whatever. Let me see now. Doodly doo 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 doo. Oh God. Okay, hold on. Looks like it's. Let me just. Okay. Okay, we're back. All right. There we go. Now Moreland has deleted all of his videos from the platform. EDP 445, which stands for Eat That Pussy 445, is a 30-year-old YouTuber with 2 million subscribers who has been posting since 2010. He gained online fame as a loud Philadelphia Eagles fan who mostly posted vlogs, mukbangs, and rants at the camera. He appeared on Comedy Central's Tosh.0 multiple times. EDP 445 sent explicit messages to someone he believed was a minor, according to the video. On Monday, YouTube channel Chet Goldstein, run by a man named Alex Rosen, live streamed chat logs from what Rosen said was a conversation between Moreland and a decoy named Sophie. The channel is known for similar stings, setting up meetings online with men who appear to believe they're interacting with underage girls. Rosen also has a controversial online presence, posting other videos using racist language. Rosen said he set up multiple fake Instagram profiles, including one of a 13-year-old girl, and messaged Moreland on his verified account. Alexandra, a friend of Rosen's who posed as decoys for other stings, read through the messages she said were shared between Moreland and the fake account. In the 2 hour live stream, Alexandra also said Moreland sent explicit videos and photos that could not be shown because of YouTube's policies against sexually explicit imagery. The purported conversation started on Instagram in February, with Moreland giving the decoy his private number, according to screenshots shown in the video. Moreland sent several sexual messages, according to the video. The conversation ended with the pair agreeing to meet. The next day, on Tuesday, the Chet Goldstein channel posted an hour-long video confronting Moreland. Rosen and YouTubers CC Unit, who goes by Ghost and is known for conducting his own pedophile stings in California on YouTube, approached Moreland with pictures of the purported messages. I've gotten messages from my supporters asking me to look into EDP to see what I could do, Ghost said in an interview with Insider. He sent a lot of graphic things. He sent photos, he sent videos, he sent a whole bunch of stuff we knew we could nail him on. In the video, Moreland said he fantasizes about women under the age of 16, and in the past he's talked to 6 other girls. He also said the screenshots were of his messages. Let it be known I'm not a pedophile, Moreland said, looking into the camera. My mom did not raise a fucking pedophile. I know what the screenshots say. The video ends with Moreland going to his car, and Rosen says he's calling the Bakersfield Sheriff's Department. Cutting in here. You didn't have the Sheriff's Department on lock already, guys? You didn't have them there already? You didn't like collab with them or say anything to them? You're just now calling them saying, hey, this guy's a predator? And you expect them to do what? Rosen said that he followed up a few days later and left a message for a detective. Left a message for a detective. So not only did you not get law enforcement involved in the beginning, but you followed up and left a message for a detective. And detectives get no less than how many messages per day about case-related things? And you just left a message. The Kern County Sheriff's Office, which has jurisdiction in the incident, did not verify that the call was made. But a detective told Insider in a statement that it is the practice of Kern County Sheriff's Office to not provide confirmation of or comment on an investigation. Law enforcement told a local ABC affiliate news station the video's content is under investigation, but as of now, no arrests have been made. So they found this guy. They, according to the videos, proved that he was talking to younger girls and sending explicit videos and fantasizing about talking to girls and has talked to 6 others. They found him, proved all this sordid shit, and then not only did they not have law enforcement looped in, but no arrests were made later. This guy essentially got away with bloody murder. Probably because the sting wasn't like a legitimate way to get these guys caught. Moreland has since deleted all of the videos on his main channel, as the article continues. Rosen's video has over 1.9 million views since it was posted, with popular content creators like Moist Critical, Pierce the Kid, and Scarce sharing their own videos about it. Though Moreland has not responded to any of the accusations or claims, he did post an update video on his second channel, EDP 445 2.0, on Friday, saying he was going to delete every video on his main channel before the day before the sting took place. Moreland was previously accused of talking to underage girls. YouTuber Cold Raven created a series of videos where he accused Moreland of messaging and following underage women on Instagram, posting what he said were screenshots of their interactions. The problem with making these screenshots public in the first place and not just bringing them straight to police is the fact that they could be altered. They could be photoshopped. They could be easily changed for the purposes of the video. Even blurring out words for the purposes of the YouTube video could make it inadmissible in court because it's clearly been changed. And if you could do that blur out, who's to say you couldn't make up the entire messages in the first place? So now you've publicized this, you've made them illegitimate, and then even in the initial sting, the biggest sting, you didn't have law enforcement present, and people wonder why police want these guys to stop doing this. This is why. Cold Raven also pretended to be an underage girl himself and claimed Moreland sent his decoy sexually explicit messages. There we go with the entrapment shit again, the blurring the line. Except this one might actually be entrapment, because if you know this guy is a predator, and you know that he wouldn't have predated unless you egged him on, then now you're falling into the entrapment because you're doing that self-incrimination shit that's going to make it so that this predator, this degenerate, this piece of shit gets off scot-free. You're not saving our children by doing this. You're not helping our children by doing this. Why does every fuck think that doing this helps our children? It doesn't. It does not. All you're doing is making smarter, more strategic predators who are going to plan for that. Back to the article. Moreland did not respond to Insider's request for comment. And then the article goes on to talk about how predator hunting is a controversial genre of media that's existed for years. Predator hunting is a fairly popular genre on YouTube, focusing on decoys pretending to be minors, asking to meet adults before catching those that arrive. We catch online predators who go after minors and kids and expose them online. Sometimes it leads to arrest. They get fired from their job, Ghost told Insider. Our goal is to change laws and give harsher punishments to these people. Except you're not changing anything when you don't even have law enforcement present. And, okay, he lost his job. He can find another. Some get arrested, but that doesn't mean that they actually go to prison. That means that they're arrested. There are plenty of people who get arrested who stay in jail for however long, and then they're released. The genre isn't universally praised. However, prosecutors and police have previously warned that stings being conducted by civilians could fail to produce evidence that would stand up in court. Such stings can also go awry. Chris Hansen's show faced criticism after a man shot himself when confronted by police and a camera crew as part of a sting. If the guy working directly with law enforcement had his show go awry, what makes you think you and a bunch of teenagers are going to have any luck? Any better luck? And you're putting yourself in danger. Because what if the guy knows what's going on and just decides to show up with a gat and blow you fools up? Now, all of a sudden, this predator is getting away, and he's dangerous. And you're creating, again, situations where there's predators that are strategizing. That's why you got to leave it to the professionals if you're going to do it. But even then, the professionals had things go awry. YouTube's community guideline policies do not explicitly ban these channels, though suspensions or bans can be given for harmful or dangerous acts involving minors and content that threatens individuals. Like, it may be cathartic to watch these guys get exposed, maybe beat up a little bit, maybe harassed a little bit, but at the end of the day, all you're doing is just you're destroying any evidence that would actually put these guys away. It's fun to watch them in misery for the time being, but like showing up to EDP 445 in a cupcake costume is not going to make sure that he suffers the consequences he needs to for those horrible, horrible things he did. It's funny, it's cathartic, it's clever or whatever, but it's also clout goblining. Hard. But now we're going to talk about the Chris Hansen versus Onision situation. Because Chris Hansen did come back to cover YouTuber Onision, who was accused of being a predator. And that situation is a whole podcast in itself, and I don't really feel like getting into it. But this article will kind of summarize it. So, this is by The Gamer. Chris Hansen versus Onision, everything that's happened so far. This was posted in 2020, January 21st, 2020, when the situation was kind of at its peak. There's a person who's been stalking me online, and they just showed up to my house. Gregory Jackson, better known by the YouTuber alias of Onision, said this during a 911 call placed last week, when independent investigative journalist Chris Hansen arrived at his Washington State home. This person's like trying to aggressively pursue me in a really hateful way. I've already talked to a lawyer about slander and stuff. This guy is really, really hateful towards me. Hansen would later rebuke Jackson's claims on his recently established YouTube channel, recently as of 2020, of course. But to understand exactly how things escalated like this, we'll first have to recount more than a decade of ugly internet history. Onision was a YouTube early adopter who quickly gained fame for uploading short sketch comedy videos of a sort that were popular at the time. Co-creating the Onision channel in 2006 with his wife Sky, the two would go on to find moderate success. Jackson's wife is alleged to have done a majority of the behind-the-scenes work at the time, as he forbade her from pursuing any sort of career outside of YouTube. In 2009, Jackson, Onision is a piece of shit in general, but in this particular situation, there's something you got to note. In 2009, Jackson uploaded what would become his most viewed video of all time, the Banana song, I'm a Banana. Attained viral notoriety and garnered over 78 million views, a near unprecedented number for the time. Although it passed muster over a decade ago, Onision would fail to adapt to newer internet trends, instead sticking to an increasingly tired and amateurish routine that would feel borderline anachronistic as time went on. Eventually, a large majority of his viewership would outgrow his rigidly simplistic content, and Jackson would find himself struggling to stay relevant as the digital limelight faded. In 2010, Gregory and Sky divorce and allegations of emotional abuse come to light. Following year, Onision briefly moves to Canada to begin a relationship with a woman who also subsequently claimed that Jackson was manipulative and sexually abusive. A few years later, and several controversial relationships later, Onision would meet and marry a woman known to the internet as Laney-Bot. The pair would have two children together, and Laney-Bot would come forward as agender and begin going by the name Kai. The two would later take in a 15-year-old girl named Sarah, and both Greg and Kai would be accused of grooming her for sex. At the same time, the couple would face similar controversy due to her equally questionable relationship with an 18-year-old Instagram model named Billy Webb. Amid questions of polyamory and predation, Onision's status as a respected member of the early YouTube community began to crumble. Basically, Onision is like piece of shit emo Fred. Still annoying in all the same ways Fred was, but with the addition of being an actual horrible human being. Chris Hansen, best known for his early 2000s work on MSNBC's To Catch a Predator, would take an interest in the case, hosting some of Onision's accusers, and former associates of his YouTube channel have a seat with Chris Hansen. Hansen spent months publicly investigating Jackson, and it all culminated in his January 9th visit to Onision's house. Hansen arrived with his team, who remained on the road as he knocked on Jackson's door in an attempt to hear Onision's side of the story. Rather than facing Chris, however, Onision immediately contacted the authorities. Hansen and company eventually left the property after the police arrived, though the situation left Onision looking even less trustworthy than before. A few days later, Jackson would file lawsuits against Hansen and YouTuber Repzion, who also covered the story. At the moment, the exact details of Jackson's filings against Hansen aren't known, and we likely won't know if this was a direct retaliation for Hansen's visit for some time. The results of the lawsuit, I think, got thrown out. I think, as of now, it got thrown out. As of 2025, it was thrown out. Yes, as if things couldn't get worse for the defamed YouTuber, reports have recently surfaced that one of Jackson's young children fell from a second-story window. The child was eventually taken to the hospital, but rumors of neglect and child endangerment have been making the rounds across the web. Onision hasn't said much about these controversies on his official channels. However, once things started heating up, he made a long series of strange videos in which he pretended to cry and claimed that he needed to retire from YouTube. Blah, blah, blah. The article goes on. You can kind of read into and look into the situation yourself. But yeah, Chris Hansen went and knocked on a YouTuber's door with pedophile allegations. And as of 2025, as of the recording of this podcast, he's not been in jail. He's not been arrested. And that's because even that, the fact that you went to his house to harass him, destroyed the legitimacy of whatever case was building against him. Anytime civilian action and civilian emotion gets involved in a case that needs to have law enforcement directly involved, and law enforcement was there at the scene, but like this, it's still not admissible. It's still not admissible because any good lawyer could take and spin that to be like, well, these are all accusations. This is all YouTube stuff. The videos could have been edited and altered. And then Chris Hansen himself is a TV personality, already opportunistic in his own right. But now, I think it's time we go into a little more in depth about why this stuff doesn't actually work. And then close with my final thoughts and kind of conclude this because I'm recording this at midnight on a Tuesday, which I guess means it's Wednesday, and I'm exhausted. And I probably should have recorded this earlier, but I don't make responsible decisions. Anyways, on to the article. This is a CBS News article. I swear to God, it better not make me try to subscribe. YouTube channel catches child predators. Police not happy. January 14th, 2022, 9:55 p.m. Elk Grove. A YouTube channel is catching alleged predators in the act. CC Unit YouTube has thousands of subscribers and has been successful here in our area, but the local police departments aren't happy about it. On January 6th, the channel's host caught 28-year-old Louis Jimenez Grigatis in Elk Grove attempting to meet up with a 13-year-old boy. The live stream was posted on CC Unit YouTube. Grigatis can be heard reacting to the ambush. Why ads? Was that it? Was that the whole article? Huh. Oh, read more. See, I'm so tired I'm not seeing obvious buttons where they should be. Why are you here to meet with a 14-year-old girl? Or a 14-year-old? With a 14-year-old, a 13-year-old boy, says CC Unit YouTube host Ghost. Dear God, learn to speak. I know I can't say much about that, but if I'm reading your words, I don't know. The alleged child predator was taken into custody inside of an Elk Grove Walmart. Do you want to have the cops involved? Okay, so let's have a chat about what you're doing here tonight. 136,000 people subscribe to CC Unit YouTube. The platform is hosted by a man called Ghost, and that's someone I'm sure you've heard before because we read about him in the last article, who catches alleged predators in the act using fake online accounts, most recently on January 6th in Elk Grove. This guy, he hit up our 13-year-old boy decoy account, says Ghost about 28-year-old Louis. You guys fucking caught me red-handed, says Grigatus, reacting to Ghost and his crew. Like, this is crazy because this is coming off like prank videos. Aha, you got me, you caught me. And this is like, these are actual predators. These are actual pedophiles. These are horrible people. And you're just like, you're turning them into prank videos. Subscribe and ring that bell for notifications. Let's put ads on this video. The very nature of being a big YouTuber delegitimizes a lot of this shit. It does. A viewer notified Elk Grove police while watching the live stream. Police quickly arrested Grigatus. Once they had sufficient evidence. So, a viewer watching the live stream called the police. Excuse the fuck out of me. A viewer watching your live stream called the police, but you in your sting didn't. Okay. Once they had sufficient evidence of a crime being committed, the subject was taken into custody, says Elk Grove Police spokesperson Jeremy Banks. Elk Grove Police aren't happy about ghost vigilantes. On January 6th, the suspect had a gun, putting the public in danger. And that's not, I was about to say, bringing him to these grocery stores and doing all this shit. That's not even mention the amount of other people you're putting in this danger. Because if this guy crashes out and just said, yeah, I'm just going to kill everybody who witnessed this. Now you're responsible for the deaths of an unknown number of people because you want to be stupid. And you want to be a Batman vigilante. You want to be a cool guy, get all the subscribers. Well, that's not how that works. We have our own local and federal units that will do these operations, says Banks. Deep down, I know they appreciate what I do, says Ghost about his relationship with Elk Grove PD. No, they don't, Ghost. No, they don't. They don't appreciate what you do. They're saying, we got this. The only thing that they might appreciate is that they're glad that somebody else is caring about children. But the way you're doing it is putting you're putting people in danger. Police and FBI agents come strapped to the teeth. So if anything breaks out, they're able to stop it immediately. A couple dudes in a car hang out with the boys' prank channel, right? They don't have the adequate resources to actually stop these guys if they should decide, I'm going to go on a rampage. And you know who they're going to call if the guys go on a rampage? They're going to call the police. So you might as well cut the middleman and just have the police involved from the get-go. Don't even, if you really want to save children and you do this, don't even post it on YouTube. But even then, it's still, even then, it's still blurring that line, but at the very least, posting it on YouTube won't delegitimize the case. That won't be what delegitimizes the case. It'll just be that you posed as a 13-year-old girl and you're a 30-year-old man. But it's just like, you by posting it on YouTube, you're fucking ruining it. You're fucking ruining it. I don't think there's anything illegal about it, says John Myers, who's a visiting law professor at University of California, Hastings. It's not the police engaging in the behavior, so by definition, it's not legal entrapment. Could the alleged offender sue the YouTube channel? The answer is yes. Would the lawsuit be successful? Probably not. But the fact that they could still try and sue the channel, come on now. And again, any good lawyer can make anything work. I mean, come on now. I've seen lawyers. I've seen some shit lawyers have done. It's not the first time Ghost has caught a creep in Elk Grove. Back in August, police took a 20-year-old into custody. We did confirm Gradis' arrest. Elk Grove police said the 20-year-old suspect was booked at Sacramento County Jail on January 6th and charged with contacting a minor to commit a felony, meeting with a minor with a lewd purpose, and carrying a loaded firearm in a public place. Read more. No, read more. But yeah, the police have their own units, they have their own stuff, and this doesn't work because why was a viewer having to be the one to call the police? Why couldn't you just have police involved from the beginning? And again, even with that, it still goes awry. So ideally this stuff wouldn't be done at all. All right, now let's see here. We're going to take a look at one more article. So this is a situation happened recently where a guy who was, I think where a guy who was in his 20s met up with a decoy that said she was like 18 or something like that, or 19 or something. These were college students, and they found this guy and they beat him up. Or no, they lured this guy and they beat him up. And you're about to learn more about that. This is a Telegram article posted on December 31st, 2024. This is like fresh, like happened last year fresh. 5 college students charged with kidnapping a predator in kidnapping. Sorry, brain just died. I'm going to read that again. 5 college students charged with kidnapping and predator hunting attempt gone wrong. Worcester. 5 Assumption University students are facing charges including kidnapping after police say they lured a man one met on Tinder to campus and assaulted him as part of a To Catch a Predator style trend that has spread on TikTok. A core group of students, Assumption University police allege in court documents, labeled the man a sexual predator without evidence, then enlisted the help of a mob of up to 30 students to chase and assault him while filming the episode to post on social media. The incident at the private Catholic university, police said, appears to be tied to a trend on TikTok in which people try to ensnare pedophiles or sexual predators and post the confrontations online. Sometimes such operations lead to convictions, but often they do not, USA Today has reported, and many authorities warn against conducting such things which can turn violent. In the Assumption incident, in which the court issued charges December 4th, a group of students allegedly falsely accused a man of seeking underage sex before chasing and beating him. Police said one of the students charged, 19-year-old Easton Randall of Jericho, Vermont, told them what occurred was like the Chris Hansen videos where you catch a predator and either call police or kick their ass, but that this got out of hand and went bad. Chris Hansen never kicked anybody's ass in his videos. He had law enforcement present. Assumption police charged 5 students, Randall, Kevin Carroll, 18 of Holden, Isabella Trudeau, 18 of Sterling, Kelsey Brainerd, 18 of Holyoke, and Joaquin Smith, 18 of West Haven, Connecticut, as well as one minor they did not identify. According to a statement of facts filed in court by Assumption Police Sergeant Christopher Shea, the group coordinated to lure a man to campus for the confrontation and sent text to a group of male students to come help them catch a predator. Shea said that while Brainerd, who met and corresponded with the man on the dating app Tinder, told police the man was a creep who thought he was meeting a 17-year-old girl, her Tinder profile identified her as 18, and that the investigation turned up no evidence the man was seeking underage sex. She said Brainard and others made false statements minimizing or falsifying what had occurred both initially and under questioning that were contradicted by video evidence. Shea said video evidence he uncovered showed Brainard leading the man to a lounge area of Alumni Hall around 10:30 p.m. on October 1st. Contrary to her reports, the video showed she was not uncomfortable, Shea said, and that she was sitting a fair distance from the man, smiling when a group of students in an apparently staged display confronted the man. Shea alleged that the group of men emerging from the secreted locations grabbed the man and prevented him from leaving while accusing him of being a predator. The man was able to break free and run, Shea wrote, but was chased by a mob of 25 to 30 students who assaulted him. One minor student struck the man in the head from behind, Shea wrote, while surveillance footage showed others assaulting the man when he got to his car. Shea wrote that the man's car was surrounded and kicked by students, and that his head was slammed into the car door before he managed to drive away and call police. Shea wrote that Carroll confessed to police that he had slammed the man's head with the door. So Shea further wrote that Brainard, when confronted with the fact that the information she was providing was not factual but falsification and lies, acknowledged that to be the case. There is absolutely no evidence presented to indicate that the man was seeking sexual relations with underage girls, wrote Shea. He said the 5 students were charged were primary actors in inveigling the alleged victim. All 5 students face a charge of kidnapping, a felony punishable by up to 10 years in prison, as well as conspiracy in connection with the case. Brainard is additionally charged with witness intimidation, while Carroll is additionally charged with assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. A lawyer listed for Carroll in court documents could not be reached Tuesday. Electronic court records did not list lawyers or the other defendants. The students are set to be arraigned on January 16th. In a statement to the Telegram and Gazette on Tuesday, a university spokesperson, Marissa Gregg, wrote that the behavior described in court records is abhorrent and antithetical to Assumption University's mission and values. So, now you've got this already flawed formula that not even 30-year-olds can do right, combining it with teenage ignorance and typical college student immaturity and know-it-all smugness. So now you're inspiring that type of chaos. The only thing that these guys are doing is inspiring more clout-chasing idiots to cause chaos. And this guy wasn't even a predator. He was in his 20s, and the quote-unquote decoy listed her age as 18. This was just straight-up kidnapping. So you just straight-up kidnapped and whooped a man because you were overzealous about your little predator sting. And 25 to 30 other idiots joined you. And now you guys are stuck, could spend up to 10 years in jail. Now, I don't know how this has developed, but you could spend up to 10 years in jail and probably are in prison because of the fact that you just couldn't find anything else to do. And it's stuff like this that's just like you're making it very hard for police to take these accusations seriously from actual victims of this sort of thing. That's another thing too that gets me worrying. It's like you're making it so hard for police to take it seriously with actual victims because now every pedophile accusation has to be filtered through this lens. And so it may just get to a point where they'll just ignore some of them. And you don't want that. You don't want that to be the impact of this. But yeah, we're going to wrap up with my final thoughts here. My final thoughts here is, as I stated in the beginning, vigilante justice never works. Too many personal motives, too much clout chasing, too much emotion tied up in a process that needs to be logical from the get-go, even when police are involved. Even when an FBI agent is conducting the sting. Even when police are conducting these stings, they have to do them a certain way. So what makes you think that somebody living in their mom's basement, could do it? And the system is broken. It's horrible. But it gets more results than this. And you're creating situations where these scum are getting off scot-free. So my final thoughts on it are just like, cut it out. To anybody thinking about doing this, don't, unless you're a law enforcement official, in which case, go on ahead and do it. We need these guys off the streets. But if you're not a law enforcement official, if it's not your job to do this, if you don't have the proper training, tools, weapons, whatever to do this, if you're not even allowed to do this, if this is not guaranteed to get an arrest, if this is not guaranteed to create a situation where an actual dangerous predator who would have predated, if not for the sting, if this is not creating a situation where those guys rot the streets, sit your ass at home and watch the professionals do it. Because all you're doing, all you would do, you wouldn't do anything. You're like that old lady that the news interviews on the police investigations. Ain't nobody got time for that. Getting in the middle of the serious issue, taking away the seriousness of the issue. That's all you're like. So, but anyways, that's all for today's show. If I've made at least one good point on this issue, or if you just liked the video, liked hearing my voice, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. My socials and things will be linked below. I will link the articles that I did read and some extra ones that I didn't quite get to in the description. And be sure to tune in next week, next Wednesday at 6:30 for an all-new What's Going On with Dapper Don. You don't want to miss what I have in store. Peace out.